the draft. Are you a big fan?
I am. It is. It's an event. I like the nuance of it. I like the insider info. I like the war room coverage. They've got all these NFL pundits that basically have all of these relationships with all of these teams. So you get this information, this intel, and the buildup of the suspense is better than an award show. Like you literally are up there, like they've walked through three, four, five scenarios, and it's just a matter of which one is going to happen. So I get
Yeah.
excited. I think the draft is one of the best spectacle events. The NFL one is one of the
Oh,
best ones.
absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Hey, here's the thing, man. I just got back. I know you had a little bit of an issue with your tooth. By the way, you didn't. What color of a star was it?
What's that?
What color of a starburst broke your tooth?
Yellow.
Yellow. My favorite
My
one. No one
least
likes yellow.
my No one likes yellow. So
That's my
that just
favorite one,
further
man.
makes me. What's your favorite?
My favorite's the yellow, followed by the orange one. Yeah. So my wife and I, when we get the
Those are
packet,
my
it's
two least
great because
favorites.
she likes the pink and red ones, and we get the packet, and I take the yellow and orange. That's how we fit together, man.
I'm straight pink and red too, man. But I'll eat them all. But I'm straight pink and red. Those are my favorite. Yeah, yellow's my least favorite. There's something
So
about
you're
it.
gonna
It's
get
too
that yellow
lemony.
one next time, and you're gonna be like, oh, I don't know, man. Have some flashbacks, some war flashbacks of the broken tooth.
You're exactly right.
Man, I had some flashbacks myself this weekend. I am now sober, in the sense that I was in Vegas for a good part of the week. I was there for 3 days.
Nice.
And gotta tell you, man, I had fun out there. The sports book at Circa, the new casino out on Fremont Street, is amazing. It is the
Oh,
best sports book I've ever seen in my entire life. The swimming pool, you can swim and bet sports at the same time. Absolutely insane. But I'm gonna tell you this, Quinn. Man, I was kind of in the doghouse this weekend with my wife. This past week
uh-oh.
with my wife while I was there.
What'd you
And
do?
I need a ruling, man. I need a ruling from you as if I did something wrong. Okay. So I got invited to Vegas with my one of my best friends. His name is Richard, and he's actually been on our show. I've known Richard
Yep.
for he was my neighbor growing up. I mean, we've known him for a long, long time. And it's his birthday. He says, "Hey, I want you to come out there." I'm like, "Okay." I've got some miles on my Southwest Airlines card. We've got some comps. I can make it very cheap to go out there. No big deal.
Yep.
So normally when we go, he invites a lot of guys, and it's a guys' weekend or a guys' week.
Yep.
And it turns out that it ended up being a bunch of couples going out there. And I was like, because my wife didn't want to go because she's going on a girls' trip next week to Atlanta with her friends. So I'm there going, okay, well, I'm going to be a third wheel, a fifth wheel, a seventh wheel. And what got me in trouble, man, what got me in trouble was his girlfriend said, I'm bringing a friend, and no big deal, right? Bringing a friend. And at the end, she ended up bringing her husband or boyfriend or whatever. And I told my wife, oh, I was so upset because we could have paired off. Now, when I said paired off, what I meant was the girls could go off someplace else and go to a spa or something, and me and my boy can go play cards, or we can go play blackjack or something. That's what the thinking was going on in my head. But
Yeah.
apparently it came off really wrong, or really like, what did you just say? And man, I landed myself in the doghouse like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, so in the world that we live in, radio broadcasting, phrasing uh matters. And as soon as you said it, it made my antenna go up because of the whole pairing proclamation too. It made me think something other than what you explained.
Well,
So yes, the
Quinn,
wife's intuition, they're going to pick up on every word. So yeah, it didn't sound. That's not a good sound.
well, no, Quinn, here's the thing. I prefaced everything for you, but I called one of my best friends who wasn't going, who was invited, and I told him the whole scenario, and I used the exact same phrasing just to see what he would say. And I was, if he said, then I would know that I said something wrong. But he goes, "Oh, that would have been great because you could have gone off and played cards." And I'm like, "Exactly. We were thinking the exact same thing, but ended up being in basically purgatory for about 3 days, but I'm back out of it.
Yeah, well, you're a good man, so I'm sure you've got your body of work will speak for itself and give you the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, you and I both know we're experienced enough to know that the perception of is always in the eyes of our better half. So
Yeah.
in anything that we say or do, we should be thinking from the perspective of what would she think? What would she see? What would she feel? And that's where the miss was, even though your intentions were pure.
Quinn, when was the last time you were in Vegas?
Last time I was in Vegas, that's going back 3 years. I stayed at the Vdara
Nice.
right there and had a great time. I'm a big Vegas fan. Now I only play blackjack and craps, but I like the Vegas experience as a whole. I usually pick out a show. I do things like the Titanic exhibit at the Luxor, which is if somebody have never done it, where you basically get a passport of somebody who actually rode on the Titanic. You go through the whole experience, and including the cold weather, and then at the end you find out you as the person with the passport if you survived. It's a pretty fascinating experience, especially when you go down below into the third class quarters where you see how tight all of the workers on the Titanic ship, how they slept and stuff. Like, it's a pretty cool experience. So me, Vegas, I go to everything. I've done the Hoover Dam. I've done the helicopter ride to the Grand Canyon. I love it, man. Vegas is great. And I always make bets on something when I'm in Vegas.
Hey, I came home with some bets. I didn't do bad. For the most part, I broke even gambling wise, but I came home with some bets. I want to talk to you about one of them, right? I bet on who was going to win, which team is going to win the Eastern Conference Championship. Eastern Conference.
Who'd you bet?
New York Knicks. 100-1 odds. A $10 bet to pay out $1,000. I'm not saying that they're the best team. They have won 9 in a row. I'm not saying that they're the best team, but they're the hottest team. And aside from the Nets, I mean, come on. I mean, it's anybody could make the Eastern Conference Championship game or championship series, rather.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, when you think about it, it's not such a bad bet because, right, first, the Knicks are hot. Secondly, we don't know what the continuity of the Nets are going to be. We don't know what the health of the Sixers are going to be. The Miami Heat, you don't see them actually playing up to the level they did last year. So if you're looking for a way to get or return on your dollar to get for that bet against the odds, it's not a bad bet for them to come out of the East. You didn't bet them to win it all. You just bet them to beat the East. So given the variables, yeah, that's not a bad bet. $100, yeah.
Well, $1,000 if they make it happen, man. $1,000
That's what I mean.
$10. Now, the other two bets I made, because I'm not a big fan of betting on the favorite, right? So the big favorites in the NBA, obviously, are the Nets, the Clippers, and the Lakers, right? But I did put a $20 bet in on the Jazz winning the title. I mean, they have the best record in the league, right? Yep. Got them at 8-1. And I put a $20 bet on the Phoenix Suns at 18-1 to win the title as well. Second best record in the league. So I'm just thinking about it going, well, they're going to have home court advantage. Both teams are healthy. So why not? I mean, why not? We're just gambling here, right? Why not?
Right. Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, is there any other team that I should have bet on while I was over there? Or is that basically the good long shots that you can think of?
I like the long shot with Phoenix. I think it's going to sound some bias. Obviously, I think my Dallas Mavericks have something. When the Achilles heel for the Dallas Mavericks is the defense, but they've got the bigs, they've got the superstar in Luka Doncic. Porzingis, healthy or not, they've got versatile bigs with Powell, Willie Cauley-Stein. They even still have Boban if they have to go all the way big. So I think they match up well with the Clippers. They match up well with Denver. And as you've seen, they beat the Lakers both Friday and on Thursday and on Saturday. And with Anthony Davis, although he was playing with, guarded minutes and without LeBron James. But I personally feel like my Mavericks and the Atlanta Hawks are two teams that could get hot in the playoffs, and they've got the shooting and the versatility to be competitive with any team.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. And I'm taking a look at the NBA right now. There's so many different things going on. One of the stories that's coming up is, does it matter that the Lakers have injuries, or is it just important for them to come back healthy when the season starts? Can they flip that switch? And that's the thing about the NBA, man. When you have series going 4 out of 7, best team typically wins. But man, you got to get your legs under you, man. I don't care if you're LeBron or if you're AD or if you're Durant or if you're Kyrie. If you're hurt and you're coming back on, it takes a while. Yes, you've been doing this your entire life, but it takes a while for this to kind of get going. Hey, when we come back, we're going to be. Yes, go ahead.
No, I agree 100%. And when you look at the fact that the Lakers are in a battle to stay out of the play-in tournament, and when you think about the fact that Anthony Davis and LeBron have not played with the newly added Andre Drummond, and that team has not had played together for months now, they're going to go into it with a one-game playoff against the bottom teams that have been fighting just to be in the play-in tournament, and you are not going to want to deal with the Steph Curry emptying the clip in a one-game playoff where he could just completely go off. So it's a dangerous time right now.
That's fascinating because you take a look at both teams who are at the 9 and 10 spot in the West right now, the Spurs and the Warriors. You don't know what you're going to get when you play those teams. That is a very, very dangerous team. Are you going to get the Spurs team that got its butt handed to them earlier this week to the Miami Heat? Or are you going to get that team that goes out there and goes off to Phoenix and just annihilates them on their own court, or has beaten the Lakers and the Clippers earlier in the season as well? You never know what you're going to get with the Spurs, and you never know what you're going to get with Steph Curry. I'm beginning to think that this whole play-in tournament might actually be here for a long, long while. I'm going to have fun with it. Hey, when we come back, we're going to be talking more about the Spurs. Big win last night at New Orleans. What a nail-biter. DeMar DeRozan, my man, coming through in the clutch. We're going to have Jill Jelnick, our Spurs insider, coming up, and we're also going to be talking about the Mortal Kombat movie at 11:45. This is the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com.
What's up, guys? I don't know if you can hear me. Probably not.
I can hear you.
Oh,
hey,
sweet.
Joe.
Good morning. How you doing, Quinn? Good to see you.
Good. Likewise. Glad to see you. Thanks for coming on. Looking forward to chopping it up.
Yeah. No makeup today. This is literally my only no makeup day of the week. So
20 seconds. Stand by.
Well, that's a great filter you got there, Jill, because you still look great.
Good answer. Okay. Let's do it.
Hoops and Hype, the post-up with Brandon Medina and Jack Thompson, a basketball anthology. Everything hoops from the NBA to the G League to college hoops and the culture that basketball has sparked from the clothes to the kicks, movies, and gaming. It's for the discerning fan. The post-up, Fridays at 7 p.m. after the Blitz. Welcome to the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com. It's a beautiful day outside. Not only is it sunny and beautiful outside, but we're basking in the glory of a Spurs win. The Spurs are back over 500 for the first time in a few weeks, jumped up to the 9th spot after beating the New Orleans Pelicans. What a nail-biter. DeMar DeRozan coming in big down the stretch. Couple of big buckets down the stretch, finishing with 32 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds. Now, joining me and Quinn to talk about the game is Jill Jelnick of Sports Tonight and YOLO, Texas. Jill, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Fantastic, especially because the Spurs got a big win last night. Big win. So pumped. It makes the Sunday a lot sweeter, right, guys? Am I right about that?
Absolutely. Definitely.
So that game last night was very, very interesting because taking a look at that game, it was one of those games where I thought to myself, man, the Spurs should be pulling away, right? The Pelicans could not make a free throw to save their life. The Spurs just had a lid on the rim in the second half, but still managed to pull out. And in fact, had gone down by like 4 or 5 points with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then came back on because of DeRozan doing so well. Jakob Poeltl just being a force in the paint defensively. But Jill, what did you think were the big keys to the victory last night?
You touched on it a little bit. I think free throws were huge. Pelicans and Spurs roughly had the same amount of free throws, but San Antonio made 10 more. They were 27 of 32 from the free throw line. That's huge, especially down the stretch in a clutch game, right? Where it's back and forth. Every single one of those free throws matters. And then I think the other big difference is Pelicans had 19 turnovers, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of rough Spurs games where it's the Spurs that have more uncharacteristic turnovers than usual. This time it was the Pelicans. Spurs hung tight, took advantage of those mistakes. And like you said, Michael, you hinted at it. I mean, DeMar DeRozan coming in clutch down the line. The Spurs were able to finish the game. They were able to close out. And that's actually something the Pelicans have had trouble with this whole season. I believe it was the Spurs broadcast that mentioned last night, in games where the Pelicans have been winning with 3 minutes left in the game, their record is atrocious. They would be like 36 and 25 or something if they could finish out games. But that's been their Achilles heel for New Orleans this whole season. Spurs were able to get the job done.
I think it's great, and just as you stated, Jill, it was a gritty win from a very desperate Pelicans team. I actually felt the energy. I felt like the Pelicans played nervous, like they were trying to force it because they're still on the outside looking in, but they're trying to get in that play-in tournament, even though they're like 4 games back. So it was big with the Spurs, but I don't want to be the dark cloud on a sunny day, but I'm about to be.
Go ahead, Quinn.
I continue to be frustrated when I watch the Spurs, and here's another game where they're winning, but I'm trying to see ahead of where we're heading. And here we go again with the inconsistent minutes, players who don't play. Now you see Lonnie Walker basically, getting very few minutes. It's so erratic to me, and I feel like as we get closer to the playoffs, I still don't know who the Spurs are. I don't know who the core, who we're going to rely on down the stretch when the rotation shrinks. Who is our core 8 players? And what are the Spurs really trying to do right now?
Yeah, Quinn, you bring up a lot of really great questions. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not the only one that is frustrated with the Spurs. You're not the only one that is struggling to find the silver lining down the road. And you bring up a lot of good points. I think you got to go back to this is one of the youngest teams. No, I'm sorry, the youngest team age-wise that Coach Pop has ever coached. Okay, so we are not in a rebuilding. The Spurs are not in a rebuilding movement. They're in a youth movement, and Coach Pop is doing what he thinks is best, not just long-term, but right now with these guys. What I want to do is I want to encourage you to look at right now. Try your best not to look at 2022, 2023. I know as Spurs fans, we want to map out the road, all the roads to the championship. We want to know when we're going to have our next, two-peat. Spurs fans are greedy, and rightfully so,
Yes.
because Spurs fans have had a rich tradition of winning and history in recent years, in the last 2 decades, right? So I get it. You're frustrated, but I want to encourage you to look at just this season. And what I mean is, this is a unique season, right? Last year was a unique year. This season is still a unique year. The Spurs have the toughest second half of the season schedule than any other NBA team in the league, okay? And when you think about that, and you think about the play-in tournament and their opportunity to make this play-in tournament as a 7, 8, 9, or 10, just look at these next 13 games for me. Look at what Pop is trying to do. Look at the growth of not just Jakob Poeltl, but the growth of Drew Eubanks in the last couple weeks. How much has he turned it up, right? Lonnie Walker, he battled that wrist injury, came back, and he's been able to step up when several players are being rested or out. I know you're frustrated with his minutes. Keldon Johnson is someone to me who really shined bright that first half of the season, and how, and has kind of taken a step back this second half of the season, right? Here's the thing. The Spurs are in a grind all out mode for the next 13 games. They are trying to do the best they can while resting players, keeping that fatigue factor away, and trying to grind it out these next 13 games, get the best play-in spot as they can in this play-in tournament, wherever that is. You mentioned that they're 9 now. I could see them, if they take care of business, going in that 7, 8 spot, right? And then doing the best they can in the playoffs, and basically kind of wrapping up this season in a better place than we anticipated them going in. Michael, it wasn't too long ago, you and me were talking in December about, we had very low expectations for this team. We had no idea what we were going to get. We had no idea who was going to be in the starting 5. We weren't sure what we were going to get from DeMar DeRozan. LA was a big question mark, right? But now the Spurs are getting their pieces together, and Quinn, just hang with me. It's just 13 games, all or nothing. We'll worry about next season when it's next season. How's that?
13.
Right, I'm with that.
13 games left, but I personally believe that win yesterday over the Pelicans basically guaranteed, for the most part, the Spurs getting into the tournament somehow. Okay. Now, the way the tournament works, I think it's kind of fascinating. So,
I love it.
You have the 9 and 10 seed playing each other, the 7 and 8 team playing each other. Because I thought originally that it was 7-10 against 8-9, but it's not.
And
so 9 and 10. So if the season ended right now, the Golden State Warriors would come to San Antonio. It would play the Spurs for the right to advance to the next stage of the tournament. Now the 7 and 8 currently right now is Portland and Memphis. So Memphis would travel to Portland. They would play each other. The winner of that game would advance to the playoffs. The loser of that game would play the winner of the Spurs Warriors, and the winner of that game goes in the playoffs. This reminds me of like the college baseball World Series, the college softball World Series, where it's a double elimination type of thing. And I'm in the winner's bracket, the consolation bracket. But the bottom line is that those who are the 7 or 8 seed only have to win once to make it to the actual playoffs. Whoever is 9 and 10 needs to win twice. So the Spurs, So the important part of the Spurs jumping up to the 8th spot, which they're only half a game away of, is that they would only need 1 win to make the playoffs out of 2, as opposed to having to win 2 in a row in the tournament to make their way into the playoffs. That is confusing. I feel like that meme of that guy with the thing on the board, and he has all the yarn and the tacks, and he's trying to point A to point B to point C. But that's how the tournament works. And I'm going to tell you what, now that I know how it works, I love it. And speaking of love, Drew Eubanks, my boy.
Speaking of boy, we love. How about Drew Eubanks?
Okay, because some players are playing better. Yes, there's inconsistencies, and yes, I want Devin Vassell out there playing more minutes, and I wish they were more consistent with what they're trying to do with Lonnie Walker, because he looked lost yesterday. And I feel so bad because I like him. I think he's a really good player. He plays better when DeRozan's not on the court, which is never, right? He's always on the court.
Except for Thursday. That's okay.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that I'm looking at Drew Eubanks and I'm looking at Jakob Poeltl. I'm thinking to myself, Spurs don't need a center in the draft. The Spurs don't necessarily need a center. They didn't necessarily need to go after Collins, because I think just the two-headed monster of Poeltl and Eubanks, I look at them and I think to myself, if I get 15 points and 15 rebounds off of those guys, I think that that's a really good performance from down low. But man, you add 7 blocks last night between the two. 7 blocks. And I honestly think it was 10, because there was 3 where they were altered. I'm thinking to myself, they did not get credit for those. But man, that on top of the fact that Derek White now has his legs underneath him, his best week of the year, he averaged this past week out of 4 games, 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. If we're getting 25 and 5 from him and 25 and 5 from DeRozan, and we're getting 7 blocks and 15 and 15 from the centers, Spurs have a shot to go to do something, make some noise. This is a team that I think no one wants to play. I think the Warriors are a team that no one wants to play, because you never know. I don't see the Trailblazers or Memphis going far into anything, because I don't think they have a high ceiling. But when you have Steph with the Warriors, and when you have kind of these moving parts from the Spurs that can just grow together and knock out the Suns in Phoenix, these are 2 teams, Jill, that, tell me if I'm wrong, that you probably don't want to play in that tournament.
Michael, I couldn't agree with you more. These are 2 teams that are coming together and starting to trend in the right direction at the right time. Tell me this, Michael, your comment about Drew Eubanks a month ago, would you have told yourself, yeah, I don't think we need a center in the draft a month ago? Would you have thought that?
Dude, the guy looks like he just came out of the Y. I mean, he just looks like he just came out of a summer league.
Comfortable and confident. Okay. His development has really come on strong in the last month. And it has to be attributed to his minutes, to his increased play. LA's gone. Jakob Poeltl needs to be resting. He's finally getting these minutes, getting comfortable, building momentum with his own personal game, and his confidence is showing. And my bigger point with that is, give these guys some time. Right? Devin Vassell, give him a little bit more time. I know he's not getting a ton of minutes right now, but Derek White, coming off of his long injury, he was basically out for the majority of the first half of the season. Now, like you said, Michael, he's getting his legs underneath him. This is a Spurs team that when they're rested and healthy, which fingers crossed, knock on wood, my goodness, they've done a nice job so far. They are trending in the right direction at the right time. And this is, to your point, this is a team that could be at the hottest point of the entire season, right? They could be the best all season during the playoffs down the stretch. They're getting real quick. And you're right. This is the Spurs team that could be dangerous, because they don't have a big target on their back, and they tend to get underestimated because of it.
We have 30 seconds, but the Spurs are going back on the road, which is kind of a good thing, because Spurs play better on the road than they do at home. But in this week, they've got the Wizards, they've got the Heat, they've got the Celtics. 3 games this week, all on the road. Jill, 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, 0-3. What you got?
2-3. Yeah. I know. I'm sorry. 2-1.
2-1
games. 2-1 will make me happy, but I could see them going 3-0. I really could.
Very nice. That is Jill Jelnick from Sports Tonight and YOLO Texas. YOLO Texas being one of my favorite shows. Woo-hoo! One of my favorite shows. Offline, I got to tell you, my wife, she kind of looks at me weird when I watch the show. She goes, "You're really way into that show."
It's a lot of good food and a lot of fun.
I know. Yesterday's show, you were drinking mango.
Yes.
What was it? Mango
Soleil, mango passion. I highly recommend it. That it's dangerous because it is so good.
Yeah, I'll go look for that. That's Jill Jelnick, Sports Tonight, YOLO Texas. When we come back, it's Grill It or Chill It. We'll be talking. Hey, is it possible to be too thin to play in the NFL? Because a star wide receiver who's supposed to go in the first round is being criticized because he weighs too little. Is that a thing? We'll be talking about that on the Sunday Sports Grill at 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and we're always on the go at ESPNSA.com.
Thanks, guys. You're the best. Have a great Sunday.
Thanks, Jeff.
This will be the only time you want to wake up with a hangover. The Saturday Morning Hangover with James Pledger and Jack Thompson every Saturday morning from 9 to 11. And watch it online on our Facebook and YouTube pages or at espnsa.com. It is time, Quinn, for Grill It or Chill It, one of my favorite segments on this show. Sunday Sports Grill goes from 11 to 1. So what is Grill It or Chill It? Hey, Grill It means
Grill
we
it or chill it.
agree.
Yes.
What does chill it mean, Quinn?
We put it on ice, baby. We put it on ice. Let it wait.
Exactly. So, NFL draft is 4 days away. And, we get all these stories. I mean, last weekend, everyone was just kind of dogging on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's going to be the number one player drafted in the draft, the Clemson QB. And they're saying, man, he's not intense enough. And now, we start thinking about it and you're like, wow, where is that coming from? It's kind of coming out of nowhere. But now there's criticism against Devontae Smith, the star wide receiver of the Alabama Crimson Tide, right? He's supposed to be either the first or second wide receiver picked. But Quinn, the issue this week about him was they measured him. He's 6'1", 173 pounds, which is actually heavier than what he used to be, okay? He's normally playing at 165. To give you some context here, CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper of the Cowboys weigh 25 to 35 pounds more and are the same height. So grill it or chill it, Quinn. It's possible to be too thin to play in the NFL at wideout, and this is an issue that we have to look at with Devontae Smith.
I say chill it. Because, first of all, this is a star player with Alabama. right?
Mhm.
That means he had to play against all of that talent to get on the field. Then he had to play in the SEC. And I get it. The NFL is even a next level on strength, size, and physical endurance that you'll have to go into the league. But I personally believe he goes into the league using his strengths, his quicks, his ability to evade the contact. And so he's gotten this far with his size. He'll probably, with the NFL condition program, they'll probably put on 10 to 15 more pounds on him, which will still make him light. That'll still make him light. It'll still make him light, but I believe he'll be just fine. This day and age, first of all, you're not taking Steve Atwater's shots. You don't got Ronnie Lott cleaning up the middle anymore. So I believe it's going to be, if he can get off the line and do hand-to-hand, he's got hand-to-hand ability to fight off the line on bump and run. I think he's going to be fine in this league.
So I'm taking a look at like who's a player that's comparable to Devontae Smith. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I hate to say this because you chilled it, but then you kind of backdoored into a grill it by saying that they're going to add 10 or 15 pounds. Why are they going to add those 10 or 15 pounds? It's because maybe 170 is too light to be a wideout. But there have been receivers out there, though a few inches shorter. For example, Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson was a player that played at 165, 170, but he was also shorter. He was 5'10". So at 6'1", I'd love to see him at least cross the 180 barrier. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grill it in the sense that I think he is too skinny, but I'm going to chill it in the sense that I think he's going to be perfectly fine because they, like you said, they're probably going to add about 10 or 15 pounds to him. I don't know what it's going to be, if it's going to be muscle or what, but add 10 or 15 pounds, man. Protein shake it, baby. Protein shake it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the grown man factor is going to come in, and he's just going to go into more of a man body, period. But yeah, I do believe the NFL is going to put some muscle on him, and I do think he will be able to go into the league at the weight that he is. That's why I was saying chill it. I do believe he's going to be a quality receiver at the weight that he walks into the league with. So he'll be okay. So now, grill it or chill it, Mike. This past week we saw Steph Curry, right, who is trying to keep those Warriors afloat without Klay Thompson, I don't know who Draymond Green is anymore. He's certainly not trying to be that utility, that Swiss Army knife that he used to be. He's kind of just become a role-playing defensive forward, but he's not the playmaker that he used to be, although he's carrying this young team. Steph Curry passed Reggie Miller, right, second all-time in threes. He's become the all-time scorer of the Warriors franchise, passing Wilt Chamberlain. Are we sleeping on Steph Curry? I know everybody says he's probably the best shooter we've seen in our lifetime, but are we underestimating who he truly is as an elite superstar scorer, iconic player in the NBA history?
I think it's one of those things. Okay, I'm gonna grill it, okay, because we have a lot of people who are our age, right? Who are the older statesmen, right? Who look at this and go, oh, well, compare him to Larry Bird or compare him to Reggie Miller or whatnot. You know, he wouldn't have been as good in the 80s or 90s. Well, guess what? Those guys in the 80s and 90s wouldn't have been good today. Okay?
Right.
It's a different game. It's a different system. I will say this, man. Beyond LeBron, probably I would say that the third most influential player in the NBA this century has been Steph Curry. Okay, I'm going to say LeBron 1, Kobe 2, and then Steph. And I'm not saying that Steph is the third best player to play in this century, but what I am saying is he is one of the most influential because when I referee basketball, right? High school, varsity, all the way down to middle school to AAU and all that stuff, and the players there, the respect they give is not to KD. It's not to Kyrie Irving. They all want to be Steph Curry. So on the court, man, he has it, man. He has the titles. Not only does he have the titles, his super team was drafted. Their version of Tony, Tim, and Manu, where the Spurs had their players drafted, that's what Golden State did. So we can complain all day long about them bringing KD over, whatever, right? But they won a title without a title with just Klay Thompson, with just Draymond, with Steph, and all three of those guys drafted by the team, and not even drafted in the top 3 or 4. There's like drafted in the teens for the most part. Curry was probably like around 7 or so, 7 or 8 in the draft.
Yeah.
Man, I think we do sleep on him. I'm gonna grill it that we do sleep on him, but I think that's older people who sleep on him. The younger people know how good he is.
That's a good point because, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know why people say that Steph Curry is not transferable. You telling me Steph Curry couldn't give Bob Cousy the business? You telling me Steph Curry couldn't go at Isaiah Thomas? You telling me he couldn't take on Danny Ainge? Like, I feel like you could put him in any era, whether you're grappling him, trying to handle him or rough him up. I feel like he can still get buckets from 35 feet away.
Right. You sound like Coming to America. Rocky Marciano. Marciano. Hey, want to go back to a football question. Let's talk about the Cowboys real quick. All right. Every mock draft, Patrick Surtain, Alabama, baby. Patrick Surtain, Alabama, every single mock draft. But it's kind of strange that, everyone seems to say the same thing. And that gets me thinking that it's probably not going to happen. Let's say Cowboys are sitting there at 10. And Surtain and J.C. Horn, the two best cornerbacks in the draft, are off the board. Grill it or chill it. They go offensive line from there.
Grill it. Because that is an immediate need. If all things being equal, if Cowboys cannot get improvement on the cornerbacks, right, in the first round, the primary position that must be addressed, that has not been addressed, is the offensive line. As is, we need 2 offensive linemen in this draft or through free agency. That we have to. So to me, it's a grill it without question. The Cowboys have to go O-line on this.
Oh, I absolutely will grill this as well. Here's the thing about the Cowboys, man, is that I think them being at the 10 spot is one of the most exciting places to be in the draft, because they're going to be able to see the first 9 picks, and they're going to have all these quarterbacks being taken off the board, 5 quarterbacks possibly in the first 9 picks, which means the Cowboys theoretically could be the first player taken on the defensive side of the ball, because the top 9 could be all on the offense. Could be a tight end, could be offensive lineman, could be, so the Cowboys might have the choice of the best defensive player. And I'm telling you this, if that happens, the Cowboys should really consider trading back. Although I wouldn't want them to. But if they went back 3 or 4 spots and got a second rounder because of it, maybe not for a 4th rounder or a 3rd rounder, but you get a second rounder. You get pick number 45 for going back 3 spots, knowing that on your big board, you're going to have a really good defensive player no matter who's there. If you drop to 13 or drop to 15, I think they're in a fantastic position, and I cannot wait for the draft, because you never know what's going to happen. It's not like the NBA where teams don't trade with each other, where teams don't want to do this and the other, or, oh, they're in our division. Man, this past week, we had the Ravens trade to the Chiefs, a Pro Bowler for a first rounder. There's no other league that does that. No one cares. It's just one of those, the NFL is that league of, we're just trying to improve our team. Doesn't matter how we get there. Rivalries don't necessarily exist in the draft. It's going to be so, so much fun. And I want to see who Mel Kiper Jr. pisses off this year, because every year he seems to piss off somebody. Hey, when we come back, believe it or not, I saw 2 movies in the fantasy realm this week. Mortal Kombat, Godzilla vs. Kong. We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat when we come back. And at noon, we have Hector Ledesma of Sports Tonight talking to us about the Cowboys draft. You're listening to the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com. Welcome back to the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com. We're going from 11 to 1. At 12 o'clock, we have Hector Ledesma joining us, the sports director at Sports Tonight, going to be talking about the Cowboys draft. But first, a quick little segment on a little bit pop culture, because that's one of the things that we do here. We talk about sports, pop culture, music, movies. And I've been accused, Quinn, you have accused me in the past of having an awkward and weird childhood because I don't watch various movies when they come out. And in fact, you have me watch movies 20, 30, 40 years from now. Now, this weekend, Mortal Kombat came out on HBO Max and on theaters. And Quinn, correct me if I'm wrong, you were under the assumption that I would maybe watch this somewhere around the year 2050. Is that about right?
Yeah, without question. You'd be like, "Hey, let me see what all the hype was back in 2021." They were talking about this iconic martial arts movie. So yeah, I was shocked to know that you actually dove into it on premiere weekend.
I texted you last night. I said not to alarm anybody, but I saw Kong and I saw this Mortal Kombat. Now, Godzilla vs. Kong, I saw at theaters. We'll talk about that one later. But this one I saw on HBO Max last night. So it was me and my wife, and I will let you know, within 10 minutes, we sent my 8-year-old daughter out of the room because it was so graphic.
Oh, yeah. First 5 minutes, no doubt.
Now, the thing about it is that the reason why I was so excited to watch this movie and so willing to watch it was because although I was not the kind of person who watched cartoons or watched Star Wars or any of the big movies growing up, I was a video game guy, right? And Mortal Kombat was one of my favorite video games. Between Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, those were my favorite games. So I can go into there going, yeah, I know who Sub-Zero is. I know who Scorpion is and Raiden and things like that. I'm going to tell you what, man, I really enjoyed it. Jeff Garcia of News 4 San Antonio tweeted at me yesterday saying, go in with low expectations, because I guess he didn't like it. But I kind of did, man. I enjoyed it. It was graphic. It was corny, but it worked for me.
It worked. Yes, it worked for me too. Let me tell you, I absolutely loved it. I hated the 1995 version. The original Mortal Kombat, I hated it. Understand, I'm a gamer. I love Mortal Kombat. I still play Mortal Kombat. I once owned an arcade version of Mortal Kombat game. I bought it on eBay for like $800, and then the circuit board went out, and then it cost $1,500 to fix it. And then I had to let it all go. But I love Mortal Kombat. Just what you said. What makes the movie great is it didn't try to be anything more than what it was a video game come to life, right? It didn't get inundated with storylines. It gave you a little bit of backstory on how they came to be. Bring them together. Let's get it on. Who's the bad guys? Who's the good guys? And what are they going to do to fight each other? Like, to me, I loved it. And because you look at 1995 to now, like most movies when they get remade, the technology's better, the special effects are better. They can be more creative with the characters and what their abilities are, just like with superhero movies. I absolutely love Sub-Zero. I'm a Baraka fan. That's who I usually fight with on Mortal Kombat. But I loved it. Liu Kang, I loved it all, man. Good stuff.
Oh,
and yes, eye candy.
We see Melina, we see Sonya Blade. I mean, we have a lot of the characters that kind of come out there. Jax is out there. And so I didn't see the 95 movie. I don't remember ever seeing it. But watching this movie, so basically, not to give anything away from this movie, okay? There's not going to be any spoilers. But basically, it's a battle for whether or not the human race is going to become slaves to whatever, right? To whatever the other beings are, right? To Sub-Zero and his group, right? So we have this new guy coming around, and, so we're going to be, so it's kind of interesting that it introduces new characters, and I really liked it. My daughter, my wife was like, hey, that Sub-Zero character is pretty cool. I'm like, I know! He turns everything into ice! It's fantastic! Yeah. I'm not going to say it was a great movie. I'll give it a solid B minus to a B. What's your letter grade for it?
I'm going to give it a B plus as well. And you're right. I mean, if you try to explain the storyline, it's going to sound terrible. It's like the fate of humanity rests on the underworld winning this tournament So we're always going to be bestowed into darkness unless they win this tournament. So it's kind of weird to say it that way, but it's a video game coming to life. I give it a B plus on expectations and delivery. I think it is what it is. If you went to go see Mortal Kombat, you can't be expecting something Oscar worthy.
Oh, I know, and not every character is in there though. So
Right.
that's kind of interesting. So you can kind of come back, and I was there going, some of the lines were so cheesy, I mean, and you do see Kano wins, was a great line.
Yeah, but
I laughed
Kano
so
using
hard
the
when he
Forrest
said
Gump reference, that was not good. That's not good.
Solid B, but in the next hour, we're going to be talking about Kong versus Godzilla, which was absolutely crazy because my kids wanted to go watch the movie. I spent $95. It was free on HBO Max, but I went out there to go take my kids to the movies. So I'll be talking to you about that one. Hey, when we come back, we have Hector Ledesma joining us to talk about the Cowboys draft. This is the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM. And as always, we're on the go at ESPNSA.com. Hector!
Okay, I unmuted myself. What's up, fellas?
Nothing, not too much, man. Nothing much. Nice to see you, brother.
What's happening, Hector?
Good to see you guys. Hey, apologies for joining a little bit later, early, but because I didn't have StreamYard, I was like, you know what? Let me do it early, so in case you have to jump through hoops and this and that, I'm not screwing you guys by being like, wait a minute, where's Hector? We're waiting for him to come on and blah 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 blah. So apologies for joining a little early.
Hey, not a problem. Not a problem at all, man. I'm excited to have you on, man. I know you came on the show a month ago. I don't know if you remember, Quinn, but Hector was the one who called in, and we ended up having an impromptu segment with him a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago or so.
Yeah. You guys are awesome. Like I was out getting, I think, a late breakfast, and I turned it, and you guys were on, and I was like, not only were you guys like, it was a great conversation. But I remember the topic that you guys, I think it was Brady or Mahomes, like who needed it more.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know. Brady certainly didn't need it, but I thought Brady had more to gain, which was kind of like the contrarian belief. Not that Mahomes didn't have anything to gain, but I was like, you know what? These guys are awesome. I bet I can have some fun if I just kind of call in real quick. So yeah, I've honestly, guys, I've never done that before. I've never just randomly called in a radio show. But I'm sitting there in whatever taco place it was, like in the drive-thru. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna call and join this conversation. It's fun.
You know what's great about that, Hector, and it's always welcome because we love your expertise and insight. But what we love about it is Mike and I, we talk about this all the time. We try to envision who's listening on Sunday, whether they're coming out of church or they're going to get something to eat or they're at the park walking around, and we're just trying to have that conversation that's not a little too overbearing, but is still topical of things that they would want to discuss or want to engage in. So I'm glad to hear that feedback.
No, that's perfect. Go ahead, Mike.
Just let you know, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with this show. We cannot hear the station, so it's going to sound like we're just going to start talking, but they're queuing me on private chat.
Gotcha.
But I can't hear the music. But apparently there is music and whatnot. I just can't hear it.
Gotcha.
So stand by. We're less than a minute. I'm going to go ahead and say we're 30 out. What is up, San Antonio, and welcome back, South Texas. This is the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com. My name is Michael Jimenez, former Rock the Mic champion, joined by Quinn Hudson, our reigning Rock the Mic champion, interactive show. If you want to reach out to us on Facebook Live, you can send a comment. We'll be happy to read it. We're also on Twitter. My handle is @210FantasyGod. Quinn is @QuinnHudson. It's been a good show so far, but it's going to be even better because we are joined right now by the sports director of Sports Tonight. Hector Ledesma is joining us. What's going on, my man?
Hey, guys, I appreciate you letting me into the House of Champions. This is awesome.
There you go, baby.
I'm gonna try to measure up, but it's like we were talking about during the break. You guys have an awesome show. Like I love that not only the sports knowledge, but the way it relates to audiences. You guys are not only knowledgeable, but fun to listen to. So I'm excited.
That's fantastic, man. You know, we were talking to you during the break and how you kind of caught on to our show a while back and called in, and it was your first time ever calling in.
I've never randomly called in, and it's funny because, and I think it's the media, you know, animal in me, whatever. It's like, okay, you know, they're doing their thing, they're riffing, like don't interrupt. But on that particular Sunday, like I was like, you know what, this is fun, this is cool, and I'd love to get in on this, and it ended up being what I thought was a very fun conversation. So awesome.
And it had been like 15 years since I had last spoken to you. So, man, it was nice to hear a friendly voice. So, like I said, the show goes to 1 o'clock. This segment, we're going to be talking about the Cowboys draft. It's amazing. 4 days away is the NFL draft. I love the draft, Hector. There's so many trades. There's so much going on. I mean, we saw a trade this past weekend or a couple of days ago. The Chiefs got a Pro Bowl left tackle for a first-round draft pick from the Ravens. They're competing to make the AFC Championship game to go into the Super Bowl, and they're still willing to trade with each other. So You never know what's going to happen on draft day. But when it comes to the Cowboys, it seems like every single mock draft has them getting Patrick Surtain from Alabama, the cornerback. Some say maybe J.C. Horn of South Carolina. Do you see, if you had a bet on it, would you say those two guys, one of those two, it's going to happen?
They're the easy bets, but I'm going to go this way, guys. Honestly, I'm not so sure that Surtain's still going to be there at 10. And I know a lot of mock drafts have Surtain still being there, but I can see the Lions going corner. Now, I know that they went corner last year in the first round, but, you know, the way things played out, maybe they go out and do it again because they weren't too thrilled. The Falcons, they certainly could use a corner. So could Surtain be there? Yeah, he could be there. And if he's there, I think the Cowboys will make that move. If he's not, to me, it becomes more interesting because I think it's Patrick Surtain and then J.C. Horn and then kind of everybody else. So in other words, I have them leveled off. So if Patrick Surtain's not there, it now becomes J.C. Horn or how about Rashawn Slater? Now,
interesting.
Now, yes, the Cowboys are in need, and that's the understatement of the year when it comes to the secondary and their defense as a whole, right? But right. I really do think, you know, the older I get, the more I realize that sports really is like life. Like it's not really that different. And the big picture is this. It really isn't that hard when you boil it down. I think it's just we just kind of make it harder sometimes. No matter what your need is, you ultimately want to have the best 53-man roster or 65-man when you include the practice squad guys and the guys on the injured list and whatever. But you want to have the best possible guys, right? So if that's the case, and you have Rashawn Slater, who not only is projected to be a phenomenal offensive lineman, but you can play with him in that for now, you play him at guard. You move him to tackle when Tyron Smith leaves, and we all know. We don't have to rehash the whole Tyron Smith thing and how his days, essentially in terms of age and career and experience, are numbered. You move him over, so now you've got a need. You've got not only he fills a need, and he's extremely talented. He gives you versatility, and oh, by the way, this draft is stacked when it comes to defensive back. No, not everyone's going to measure up or maybe grade out or turn out to be Patrick Surtain or maybe even a J.C. Horn. But you've got some other guys, and the kid from Smithson Valley that played up the road at TCU, Trayvon Merrick. Good. The Cowboys like him a lot. Maybe that he's there in the early second round. That's who they go with, although he's kind of projected to be late first round. So I think there's a lot of different ways it could go. If Surtain is there, I answered your question the long way, right? If Surtain is there, I think they make the move. I'm not sure he's going to be there though.
So right now, I mean, you're talking about Slater, offensive lineman from Northwestern. That's my next question that I had there, which was basically, okay, Horn's not there. We have Surtain not there. Does that basically mean they have to go offensive tackle at this point?
Either
Or
that,
offensive lineman.
Mike, or they trade down at that point. Because let's say Rashawn Slater's off the board. Although at this point you're kind of like, well, it's just the numbers game. If all the quarterbacks that they're saying are going to go early, plus Kyle Pitts, if they're all gone, at that point you figure either Surtain, Horn, or Slater's going to be there, right? But let's go through the scenario. Let's say none of them are there. I think you've got to trade down at that point, and maybe you see if you can get one of the other corners, one of the other defensive backs, and you kind of maybe come away with two second rounders, or including a very early set or something along those lines, and you try to make a move. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's those three guys are top 10 worthy. The three guys that we named, plus the other guys that you kind of the quarterbacks and Kyle Pitts. Those guys are top 10 worthy. And in this NFL draft game of currency, of point value, of assessed monetary gain, if you will, in terms of point system to pick, then the way the game is played, you've got to move down instead of just saying, well, so and so is there, yeah, but you can get him at 22. So move down to 17 or 18 or whatever, and then pick up that extra pick. You've got to make that move if that's the case.
So, that's interesting. You talk about the possibility.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Quinn.
Can you hear
you? Yes, we can hear you.
All right, Hector. So I have a question. There was talk earlier. As everybody was going through the draft. All of a sudden, they started talking about the Dallas Cowboys picking a tight end. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? So I'm just watching the Cowboys in its outset last year. Jarwin goes down. We actually start to see when Witten went away from last year, it started to see like, wow, we actually do have some tight end talent.
Right.
Wow, we actually do have some versatility, right? So I didn't come away from last year feeling like we were devoid of tight end talent to where we needed to be drafting early. I felt like we actually had demonstrated we actually had some depth in that position to give Dak some more weapons to work with when he comes back. Where do you see the Cowboys in their perception about the tight end position?
That's a great question, Quinn, and I'm going to go one step further. Jason Garrett, his final year with the Cowboys, one of the pressing issues that bothered not only Jerry and Steven, but the other Cowboy assistant coaches was Jason's insistence on staying with Jason Witten, when kind of similar to Pop and the Spurs, what we're seeing this year with Devin Vassell, and Garrett sticking with Witten and liking everything that Witten brought to the table. The other guys, the other coaches would say, hey, look, Blake Jarwin's got a bright future. Dalton Schultz, we think, has pretty good potential. Let these guys play. So, side note, that was a big source of contention when the Cowboys still had Witten. The other coaches on the staff wanted the other tight ends to get some more PT and some more reps. So it brings us to now. I don't think, Quinn, the Cowboys want to go tight end. The question is, does Kyle Pitts become this year's CD Lamb? They don't have the need at tight end, but Kyle Pitts is so special that do you pass on what could be a generational talent like that when he's there for you to take? And my thought on that is always you take the generational talent if he's there. I don't fault them for the CD Lamb thing last year. And I know people can say, well, look at what ended up happening to their defense. Look how porous they were on defense. I get it. But CD Lamb, number one, again, going back to the original point, for me at least, you're trying to put the best 53 players on the roster together. Yes, there are importance at positions. Having a great quarterback in today's day and age is the most important factor, right? You want to have a great quarterback as opposed to having a great right guard. Those two aren't equal positions. But when it comes to generational, once in a lifetime, this kid, Kyle Pitts, if you listen to scouts, the kid is Kellen Winslow, John Mackey, Tony Gonzalez, and Antonio Gates combined. Like, it's ridiculous, the love that this kid is getting. And I remember my wife's an Aggie, so over the years, I've kind of, I kind of watched Aggie games a little bit more closely. When they played Florida this past year, I was like, the kid's good, but I didn't see it. But that's just one little game. You don't extrapolate whatever from, hearing all these guys talk about Kyle Pitts, it's almost to the point where it's like, well, heck, take him over Trevor Lawrence. Like, if he's that special, make him the number one overall pick. But that's, again, the long way of answering your question, Quinn. I don't think they want to go tight end. And if it's not Kyle Pitts, it's not even question. The question is is he's so good that kind of like Michael Jordan in that draft with Akeem. If you're the Rockets, do you end up or the Blazers at 2 because they played out decently for the Rockets, right? If you're the Blazers at 2, do you go, no, we already have Clyde Drexler. Let's not draft MJ. Let's go Sam Bowie instead. You don't ever want to be that team again.
That is Hector Ledesma, sports director at Sports Tonight. Let's talk about some other parts of the draft. So one of the things I thought was kind of interesting, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence. And it's so funny because I think a lot of sports journalists get kind of bored leading up to the draft, right? Because they got to come up with some sort of story, some sort of hook. Over the past week, there have been 2 stories. One has been about DeVonta Smith. The other one has been about Trevor Lawrence. The first question about Trevor Lawrence was he gave an interview where he basically said that football is not his whole world. And he basically says that, they were questioning his intensity, right? Because he didn't have that Kobe scowl. He was just basically being, he was like, hey, I have other interests. I love football, but, he was just kind of just being ho-hum about it. And then DeVonta Smith this week, when they measured him and they say, hey, he weighs 170 pounds soaking wet and he's 6'1", that might be an issue if you're going up the middle as a wide receiver. Are any of those issues there, the Trevor Lawrence intensity, the DeVonta Smith weight, are those any issues that teams may have to perk their ears up and go, that's interesting. Never thought about it.
No. And a little secret to the rest of you, to everyone else listening or watching video via the stream. Little secret here. We sometimes need things to talk about. And so we'll throw stuff out there. Now here, Mike, I've always tried to be the person who hasn't gone down that road, like trying to manufacture. Like if I have a question in my mind, to me it's a justification. I'm not gonna just throw stuff out there or what have you. That being said, there are organizations, media outlets, what have you, who don't have that luxury. Like they've got to fill 24 hours, and so because of that, the smallest little thing is now talked about, and then maybe you get some traction, and then things along those lines. And so because of that, no, I don't think either one of those is an issue. No.
Hector, so this past week I was in Las Vegas, the Circa, which is an amazing sports book. Don't know if you've heard about it, but it's the largest sports book apparently in the world, and it was amazing. But what I thought was kind of interesting was, they bet on anything, and there's all these prop bets out there. And there was a draft prop bet that I saw, and I looked at it, and I was like, whoa, San Antonio angle. Okay, so it's about Kellen Mond, star quarterback of Texas A&M, went to Reagan High School as well. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because they asked the question, what round is he going to be drafted in? What I thought was kind of interesting was rounds 3, 4, and 5 had the same odds, which basically means Vegas has no idea where Kellen Mond's going. They would not be surprised if he's in the 3rd round. They would not be surprised if he drops to the 5th or 6th. Hector, what do you think about Kellen Mond's prospects in the NFL? Do you think he's going to be a day 2, day 3 kind of guy? What are you expecting from him with this upcoming draft?
I think he can go as high as round 3, Mike, and here's why. I think the Patriot effect on the NFL is real, and here's what I mean by that. And I guess you can call it the Belichick effect, although they call it the Brady effect too. But the Belichick mindset of, and you can carry this over into other sports. We see it here in San Antonio. The mindset that winning matters, intangibles matter. What arm strength, maybe as long as it's there, as long as it's functional, isn't as important as what's inside, as coming from a good culture, as much as winning. And so I think other teams have looked at what the Patriots have done the last 2+ decades, and they'll go, there's something to that, because it goes beyond. I know this year they fell off where Brady left, but it goes beyond Brady defensive-wise, special teams-wise, what they've built there. There's something to be said for the type of guy as well as the type of athlete. And I think that's going to help a guy like Kellen Mond, whose measurables aren't off the charts.
You mentioned this being a New England effect. Could it possibly be a Dallas Cowboy effect in the sense that could he be another team's Dak Prescott? I mean, take a look at it. They have a similar things. I mean, Dak Prescott, star in the SEC. Dak Prescott has those intangibles. He is a leader. People like him. People love him. People follow him. doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Kellen Mond, cleaned things up as time went on. Could he potentially be a Dak Prescott 2.0, depending on which team he goes to?
You know what? I never thought about that, Mike, but that's an excellent analogy. While I think their skill sets are a little bit different, I think Dak's arm, is much stronger. Yeah, but at the same time, Kellen just went through a season in which A&M had maybe its second, definitely the season that A&M just had is no worse than their third best season of all time. There's a national championship they won back in the 50s. There's back in like 92 when they lost one game, but they lost the bowl game. And then there's this year where they just lost the one game and they won the Orange Bowl. So this year, wherever you want to put it among 2 and 3, it's no worse than the third worst year they've ever had. So he's got that going for him. Whereas Dak every year in the SEC had to deal with the Alabamas and the Florida and the Auburns and everything else. And so he was kind of in the middle of the pack. And, Kellen Mond is coming off a great season in the best conference in college football. Maybe that cancels out. Maybe the specifics of this. But that's a pretty good analogy. Yeah.
That I'm a big Kellen Mond fan, and it's interesting because taking a look at his stats from the past couple of years, just 2 years ago he had 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. But as I said, he cleaned it up big time last season with only 3 interceptions compared to 19 touchdowns. That was Hector Ledesma, sports director of Sports Tonight, joining us. Thank you for joining us. When we come back, Quinn and I are going to be talking about Spurs legacies. There's been a lot of movement in the news this week. Kind of interesting. People bringing up David Robinson's legacy out of nowhere. And a star NBA player talked about Tim Duncan in a very, very positive light. We'll be talking about that and also going over Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, whatever it was. We'll be talking about that on the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com.
Mike, can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
You can? I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Oh.
You're not muted?
Nope.
Are you muted?
No, I'm good.
I don't know why. I can hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes till coming out. So you can't hear me, right?
I can hear you when
I still hear you.
Air.
You can hear me
you
on
can
open
hear me
air?
right now?
Yes.
Yeah. You can?
Perfect.
Okay. Then I'll just I'll do it like that.
Yeah, Ricardo says he can hear both of us. Ugh.
Okay. Then I'll just run it like that.
It's nerve-wracking.
Cool, man.
It's been nerve-wracking today, man. I never understood how much I need that bump music, man, to kind of like get me in.
Your little timing. But
Yeah.
you know what's funny? I didn't know that you were that he was counting you in. I was looking at the clock and I was like, man, he's doing hard stops right on time. Look at how he's got that down, man. It's like, wow, 56 mark. Look at him close it out. Wow.
Well, I have a clock here I'm on the website for 5650, so
Right. So I had it up here too on the, and so I was watching the clock on it, but you were going out on the minute. So I was like, wow, that's impressive. Still
Yeah,
impressive.
Ricardo says he can't even tell that we're having technical difficulties, and I bet you when we listen to it later on, it's not going to sound bad, but it's just
It's
one of those
just,
things where it just feels ugly.
Yeah, we know.
We're segment 6, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Hector is great, man.
Oh, he is fantastic. We all know mom is the best, so why not show it? Register to win $1,000 for Mother's Day at ESPNSA.com, brought to you by Service First Air Conditioning and Plumbing. Give mom the best Mother's Day ever. $1,000 for mom at ESPNSA.com, brought to you by Service First Air Conditioning and Plumbing, and from 1250 ESPN San Antonio and 94.5 FM. Welcome back to the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN. My name's Michael Jimenez, joined as always by our reigning Rock the Mic champion, Quinn Hudson. We just had sports director from Sports Tonight, Hector Ledesma, on. He is fantastic, Quinn. I love talking to Hector. I met him 20 years ago. We worked together for a short period of time, and it's funny because we were talking about it offline. He was saying, yeah, I was driving around, had never called into a show before, but he felt the need to call into ours. And it's kind of reignited our friendship a little bit. He's a great, great guy.
He is, and I love his insight because it's all of the conversation. It's the understanding of the industry, the sports industry itself, the nuance of the backstories of picks and contracts and personnel. So when you're having these conversations, you can look at the full scope of the reality and the fandom in the same discussion, which is kind of cool, right? And so I felt like all I needed was a cold beer, man, to keep chopping it up, man, and walking through it. Because as a Cowboy fan, that is always our frustration. It's what was happening on the field, what was happening in the Jerry Jones crazy decision making, what was happening during the Garrett, how Garrett hamstrung the team with his stubbornness of what he did and didn't do, and then what the actual performance was. So these are like the ongoing simultaneous frustrations that we have as Cowboy fans, and he kind of speaks to that, and that's why the anticipation of this season is so great, because we have Dak returning. You've got the draft to fill in the gaps that we certainly saw what we were missing, and then the expectations always of the star, man.
The Cowboys' optimism. The Cowboys' optimism. That train's never late. It ain't never late.
Always on time. It's always on time, baby.
Oh my God. We are about 2 months away from every third person walking the streets wearing a Cowboys polo. So fantastic. Hector Ledesma also works very closely with Jill Jelnick, who joined us in hour number 1, our Spurs insider. Love talking to Jill too. She's fantastic. I really, really want to hang with her and Hector next time I see them. That's going to be so much fun. But hey, this segment I thought it's kind of interesting because, the Spurs. The Spurs and Spurs fans don't necessarily get the respect nationally. I understand that, right? Because, when they start listing the top players of all time, there's a little bit of disrespect that goes there, right? You start, in my eyes, I've always said, in my personal opinion, I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the GOAT. That's been my opinion for a long, long, long time.
Right there with you.
So, but where does Tim Duncan kind of fall into that? And I see some people kind of list him in the top 5 range. Some will say, oh, well, he's top 10. Very few will say that he's not top 10. I personally put him around 4, right? But what I thought was kind of interesting this week was that Meta World Peace, right? Who, Ron Artest back in the day, he played with a lot of big players, man. He played with Kobe, he played with Shaq, he played with a lot of greats. And he said something on Twitter the other day. He said, quote, I think Tim Duncan is top 6 all time. Why are we fighting it? He lost only once in the finals. Why not put him in the mix? This needs to stop. In fact, Tim Duncan might be top 4 ever. kind of interesting because when you start looking at it, a lot of those Laker fans were saying, well, wait a minute. Are you putting him above Kobe? And Meta World Peace kind of saying, yeah, probably. What were your thoughts?
I agree 100%. Look, it's always hard to have these conversations because you don't want to tear down the greatness of other players to lift up the ones to the point you're making. I do believe Tim Duncan belongs ahead of Kobe Bryant. And I do believe Tim Duncan belongs in the top 5 of greats of all time. And if you're placing Bill Russell as a center, then Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Of all time. And you got to look at what he's done during the LeBron era, but you have to look at how he transcended. He's not just a big fundamental. He took on centers. He took on power forwards. He didn't play when there wasn't talent around him. He had to go against Karl Malone. He had to go against the Kevin Garnett. He had to play in the Shaq era. He had to play against LeBron. He had to play against Chris Bosh. You know, I mean, he's had to go against elite players throughout his career, and he delivered. And he made people around him. And so Spurs fans, this is always a tough conversation too. I don't want to downplay this, but I personally feel there are a lot of teams. Let's take Karl Anthony Towns, a skilled big man, right? Karl Anthony Towns. We don't know. He could very well have been playing with a Tony Parker and a Manu Ginobili, but he doesn't have the ability to make them better. His skill set doesn't make those other players bring out their best around him. That is the nuance of Tim Duncan. He was coachable. He was humble. He wasn't selfish. He was an impact player. He led by example. To me, all of those variables are important. Go back and look at where Kobe Bryant was in his first couple of years. He was a selfish player, not making people around him better. Even in the end of his career, when Tim Duncan was humbled and was coming off the bench, he still was that serviceable big man. How do you need me, Pop? How do you need me? Let me give you what I can give, what my body still can give. He wasn't out there just shooting. When the Lakers looked bad in Kobe's last years, when Kobe should have been more selfless, he became a little more selfish. And he basically was still getting his shots up. He wasn't caring about the young talent. He wasn't trying to let the next era of the Laker lore come up. So to me, all of those things factor in to what made Tim Duncan great. He was great from day one. He made teams better. He took the team higher. He accomplished. He won. And he played out. And he's 100% class personified. That's Tim Duncan.
I know. Tim took down LeBron. Tim took down Kobe. Took down Shaq. I mean, his list of victims was amazing. And not only that, to win it, to have his first season and 15th season have those titles there, to bookend it there. And not only that, the defensive side of the ball, I think, is something that no one pays attention to, because not only is he one of the greatest players of all time, he is arguably the best defender of all time. And that kind of gets thrown out of the equation for a lot of people. I have Duncan right around 4, probably worst case scenario 5 for me. But when it comes to the top 20, Quinn, it's kind of interesting because those names, people start throwing out names like Charles Barkley and names like that. Well, it's kind of interesting, and I know he's kind of there to kind of stir up controversy and debate, but Skip Bayless on Fox Sports this week was unveiling his top 20. He started rattling off names, and he had David Robinson listed over Steph Curry in his top 20 list. What are your thoughts of Robinson, the Admiral, Spurs legend, being named higher than Steph Curry?
No. And let me, full disclosure, David Robinson is my favorite San Antonio Spur of all time. I think Tim Duncan is the greatest Spur of all time, but David Robinson is my favorite. So no, I don't believe that. We've watched Steph Curry put a team on his back and carry that team, no matter whether KD was there, Clay was hurt, or it was Draymond, or he was playing with Looney, or, whoever he had, or JaVale McGee. We've seen him put up the numbers, transcend the sport, and do it. While David Robinson was revolutionary as a big man because he became this fluid, free-flowing athletic player, he was not that player. We saw that even when he was the MVP, even when the team had the best record in the NBA. When it came down to it, David wasn't that person that put the whole team on his back and could carry them through the playoffs and carry the weight of that. That's the difference. Steph Curry is that player, and he's undersized. He's a little man that plays big in the biggest moments, and that's probably the Achilles heel in David Robinson's legacy.
I'd say both are top 25, but I'm going to agree with you that Curry should probably be a couple of steps above David Robinson when it comes to this. Now, here's a great thing about it, man. In looking up David Robinson, did you know that yesterday was the 27-year anniversary of him throwing down 71 points to win the scoring title? And it's amazing when I go back to the box score. So for those of you who don't know, he was kind of neck and neck. I mean, a fraction of a point away from Shaquille O'Neal. And the Spurs went out there and said, guess what we're doing? We're just going to be feeding Dave the entire game. And Shaq years later has joked about it. Like, I cannot believe they did it. But it's almost like he's upset that he didn't do it himself. Because when you take a look at the stats here, the Spurs ended up winning that game. But David Robinson's stat line, 44 minutes. He shot 26 for 41, including 1 of 2 from 3. He was 18 of 25 from the free throw line, 71 points, had 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. What a stat line. What a stat line. By the way, no other Spur scored in double digits. Dennis Rodman was good.
Without question, David Robinson probably had to have an ice bath after that particular game.
Dennis Rodman, 8 points, 17 rebounds. Terry Cummings, 5 points, 12 rebounds. And it's so funny taking a look at this team. This team ended the season 55-27. But, man, that team was awful. Yeah, David Robinson, obviously, all-time great there. Dennis Rodman was, kind of tail end of his career. But, yeah, Vinny Del Negro, Lloyd Daniels, and Terry Cummings starting with Miguel Knight, Antoine Carr, Sleepy Floyd, J.R. Reed, and Jack Haley, the babysitter of Dennis Rodman, coming off the bench. That was not a very good team. But, man, 71 points. Amazing to think about it years later. 27 years ago yesterday.
Greatness. And you know what? Just because you feed a player the ball the entire game doesn't mean they can deliver. So that speaks to the greatness of David Robinson. And even when they were trying to do it, he still put up not only a lot of shots, but he was still cooking. He was still getting buckets, which showed he could have been a more selfish player had he not been the consummate professional. David Robinson played within the basketball, style. So he didn't be that player that just wanted to get shots up all the time. Like, remember when Kevin Love was averaging 20-20 in Minnesota? That was because he was basically everything was running through him. David Robinson still was out there kicking the ball out to the Vinny Del Negros.
Hey, man, you've been talking about greatness. And speaking of greatness, an NFL star is now part of the Guinness Book of World Records. We're going to talk about this. An NFL star pulled off a record yesterday that I think is amazing. I cannot believe no one had ever heard of it or ever done it before. But we're going to talk about it next on the Sunday Sports Grill, 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com. We're 15 out. Join the Blitz Thursdays at 6 p.m. for Grilling with the Blitz. Submit your recipes and pictures at espnsa.com under the Win tab. Every week is a chance to win a new $50 gift card to Tri-County Meat Market. Grilling with the Blitz every single Thursday at 6 o'clock. Hey, this is the Sunday Sports Grill. We go from 11 to 1 here on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at espnsa.com. My apologies. We actually had somebody calling in trying to talk to us about one of our topics, but we had some technical difficulties. So my apologies if you're listening. We do like having callers on the show, but we're having some issues on the back end right now. So we'll try that next weekend. So Quinn, pretty excited, man. This topic I'm really excited for. For those of you who have not seen this topic, just go on to YouTube and search it because it's fantastic. Rob Gronkowski, future NFL Hall of Famer. He has 4 Super Bowl rings, 5 Pro Bowl appearances, will be in Canton one day. But on top of all that, on top of him just being a fun-loving guy, living the life, living the dream, being the life of the party, on top of all that, Quinn, he is now a member of the Guinness Book of World Records. What he did yesterday, I had so much fun watching. He showed up at the Arizona Wildcats spring practice. Now, he graduated from Arizona. That is his alma mater. He went over there. Everyone was so excited to see him, and then he broke a record. What did he do? He caught a pass, the longest pass ever, from a helicopter. It was dropped 600 feet, and he caught it. Now, it took him 3 tries, but he caught it, and now he broke the record for the longest football catch, which, by the way, 600 feet. Vertically, that's like turning a football field on its side twice, okay? It's like catching a ball basically from the Tower of America's deck, right? Yeah. Quinn, are you impressed?
I am impressed. I am impressed because catching a football from a long distance, let's say a Hail Mary from the 50-yard line, in itself, the hand-eye coordination just to do that is not an easy feat to do. Gronkowski's amazing. I mean, this guy's been in the WWE. He's living his best life. Obviously winning rings and still competing and then doing creative things like this. Now, I would love to be a fly on the wall just when they conceptualize the idea of what
he was probably drinking.
Hey, yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Hey, yeah, go up there in the helicopter and throw the ball down to me. Like, it's just such a bizarre to find out you can actually do this in itself. But even in 3 tries, a few failed attempts. I mean, we watched dunk contests where they've been practicing for months and they still can't even execute the dunk they've been trying. So the fact that he was able to still do it shows that he's got great hands and creativity, and he's just another way of still raising the bar, man, that he still can do great things outside of the football field, which is awesome. I am impressed. Without question, I'm impressed on that.
So I'm taking a look at the video right now. And so all you got to do is just go to and Google Gronkowski helicopter. Now, one thing that I am glad that he did was he wore a helmet, okay? Because I bet you he went out into the middle of the field without a helmet because that's just the way that he is, right? But he actually wore one. He had no pads on. He was just wearing a helmet with the t-shirt and shorts, and they dropped it on him. Now, the first one, he looked like he caught it, man, because it went through his arms. The second one, I think he just couldn't really gauge it a little bit, but the third one was perfect. And I was wondering, like, do you catch that with your arms, or do you try to press it against your chest? But I'm thinking to myself, that's almost like getting shot, man. If you're throwing a football and just free falling 600 feet, that's absurd, man. But I'm thinking about it. I'm impressed. Go on to YouTube, Google Gronkowski helicopter. You'll have a blast. And when he caught it, having the whole University of Arizona football team just jumping up and down, amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing.
I'm sure they were already stoked at the fact that he was showing up to practice. That in itself, given his greatness, already was a great moment for them. But to see it, I actually now, and looking at it again, I don't even know how, with the helmet on, no less, how you spot the football and see it through. I mean, that's not an easy thing. From that angle, when they show it from the helicopter to down, you wouldn't see that football until it was almost upon you. You know, he'd have to track that and then catch it, but he cradled it in. I mean, this makes me frustrated because we see Amari Cooper drop footballs on 3rd and 12. Like, this just gets me upset. This guy, he's catching it into his body where he's dropping a helicopter. Nobody better drop one damn football this season.
No muffed punts. That punt only went up 100 feet. You're not.
Yeah.
He caught it from 600 feet.
We should shame them all. I'm like, really, dude? He kicked it like how high? Like, really? It's not like from a helicopter. You got one job.
This reminds me of like Dude Perfect when they start doing those trick basketball shots from the Tower of Americas, or that one building off that one green building off of in Dallas where they throw it off there. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But I was also looking at other records that are out there that I thought were kind of funny. You know, Joey Chestnut, 75 hot dogs eaten in 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and call nonsense on that. You know why? Because they wet the buns and then eat them. No, I want to see what the record is going to be just eating a hot dog, you know, not soaking it in water. I know it's incredible what they do, but I bet you the record would only be like 8. Right? If it was that way. And then
the hot dog is just lubing the throat, man. That's all he's doing, lubing the throat.
It was lunch for his pleasure. Anyway, an Iranian woman named Elham Ashgari, she swam 2.6 miles handcuffed. I thought that was pretty amazing. What are some records that you're impressed by?
That is impressive. By the way, before I share one of the bizarre ones, Chestnut's one of his most impressive records is 32 Big Macs. He ate 32 Big Macs in 38 minutes. And I don't care if he wet the buns. If you ate 32 Big Macs look, I ate 20 chicken McNuggets, and I don't want to talk about that experience. It was not right. I needed a midwife and stirrups and therapy after that experience. My body rejected all of that. 32 Big Macs in 38 minutes is bizarre. But the crazy one I saw was 73 pounds of bees. That the person covered himself with 73 pounds of bees and did not get stung. And the only thing crazy about that is he broke the record of 59 pounds of bees. So like I honestly don't know how people like. I'm always thinking, what drives a person to want to go, hey, what can I do creatively? Let me cover myself with pounds and pounds of bees on my body. It's very bizarre to me, and I got anxiety just watching the video clip of that.
You know, you're talking about the 32 Big Macs. All I thought of was like that's 96 pieces of bread because there's 3 pieces of bread in the Big Mac. Right. But it got me remember that old movie in the 80s, The Great Outdoors with John Candy, where he had to eat that big old steak and he was all excited that he ate it, and then they were like, there's still some left, and they made him eat the gristle. That's kind of what it reminded me of. Oh, so gross. When it comes to nuggets, I think I top off at 12. I mean, I'm a big dude. I have a big appetite, but if I go beyond 12, it's not going to be a pretty sight.
No, it's not. And then at that point, you're just eating. You're just a powdered keg at that point. You just know you're going to get ready to blow.
Absolutely gross. Man, some of these records are amazing. I got to find one, man. I got to think, what can I do for like that like what's in my wheelhouse. I really don't have one, but 600 feet for a football being dropped. I'm saying there's a chance. I'm not saying there's a good chance. More
You think you could do
importantly,
it?
I think I could. I think I can spot it. I have 2010 vision. I think I
Okay.
can spot the ball coming down. Right now, will I get scared because it's going to sound like a missile dropping on the way down? That would freak me out. Okay, but I'm looking at it. I'm thinking to myself, how many balls did they take up there? I mean, did they take 10? Did they take 5? Was it the final one? You mentioned the slam dunk competition. You have
Yes.
X number of tries. How many did they
Yes.
take up there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're giving us the best of the edited clips, but we actually don't know
And what's great,
what they were prepared. What resolve did they were prepared to do? Like, did they have a whole they have a whole basket of kicked footballs that they were going to drop down? I don't know.
and they didn't just chunk the ball. They kind of like spiraled it down. So I was
Right.
like, no, just chunk the thing, man. Make it a duck catch or something like that.
They
But
needed
no,
they needed it to be aerodynamic so that it fell cleanly through the wind, because if it started to whiff, it would drift and it could be 20, 30
ah,
yards removed from him. So he was gonna
interesting.
that was gonna help it the ball trajectory and how it was dropped.
If you haven't seen it, again, just go onto YouTube. Just search for Gronk or Gronkowski helicopter. It's a blast. It's a great video. Hey, when we come back, we're going to pay tribute to Shock G, passed away this weekend. And also, we're going to be talking about the movie Godzilla vs. Kong. This is the Sunday Sports Grill, 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at espnsa.com.
You recognize this sound? Well, it's the underground. You know that we're down with what you like. With what you like. And though we're usually on a serious tip, check it out. Tonight we're gonna flip the trip and let it all hang out tonight. We're gonna say what we like. 'Cause yo, we wanna know.
Welcome back to the Sunday Sports Grill on 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on the go at ESPNSA.com. We've really enjoyed this show, but before we go, I want to bring up two quick topics real fast, not to end on a downer because I want it to be more of a celebration. But rapper, entertainer Shock G passed away earlier this week at the age of 57. I have no idea how he passed away, to be honest with you. Don't even really want to look into it because I want to remember him for the artist that he was. Quinn, when you heard of his passing, what did you think, man?
I was such a fan. I'm such a fan of Digital Underground during that hip hop era. Huge fan of his. It's been a rough, past couple of weeks from DMX to Black Rob to now with Shock G. But Humpty, I mean, you want to talk about transcendent, iconic images from the hip hop era, and Humpty was definitely his alter ego, but definitely a kind of a signature era that was fun, but clever. But it was a part of him, and so yeah, lost definitely a legendary hip hop contributor.
It's amazing because I take a look at it with whenever a celebrity dies, you don't know how it's going to affect you one way or the other. Sometimes it just doesn't affect you, and sometimes it hits you kind of hard. When Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots died, it hit me pretty hard. When Prince died, which by the way, the anniversary was 5 years ago this week that he passed, those hit me pretty hard. Shock G was interesting because I kind of got sad for a moment there. I was like, man, that's when hip hop was the most fun for me. That late 80s, early 90s period where it hadn't evolved into gangsta rap, but it was more fun house party style music, And, you take a look at it, you think Digital Underground, and I kind of think that his self-deprecating type of persona and all those different things that he did kind of maybe affected him in the minds of some people, but the dude was legendary. Shock G just knew talent, so much so that he discovered Tupac. I mean, come on.
Yes.
What more family tree do you need to know that Tupac was a member of Digital Underground? And going back and listening to some of these songs beyond the Humpty Dance, but Do What You Like, or Same Song, or how about I Get Around by Tupac, which was produced by Shock G. That's some fun music that you can play now, and it still plays well.
That's a great point and a call out because Shock G's legacy is so much more than Humpty, although that became the signature staple to where I'm sure that was tough because he wanted to give you Shock G. I remember seeing him in I regret to admit this, I saw him in a Vanilla Ice. It was kind of like an African Bombay. It was like a Young MC. It was like an old school tour kind of thing. And Humpty comes out and Shock G was trying to give you his ability to play the piano and all of this other style, and you could tell all everybody wanted was Humpty. Like that's all people wanted, and he was trying to show you that he had so much more range to his greatness. So he definitely will be missed.
On the producing side, he was amazing. By the way, Vanilla Ice, I had dinner with him. I had dinner with him about 20 years ago at a place called Sharky's here in town, which is now a gentleman's club, but it wasn't a gentleman's club then. It was a nightclub, and I actually had dinner with him. So interesting. Hey, 2 minutes to go. Yes,
I gotta ask you. So in that opportunity to being up close and personal, did you come away being a bigger fan or a lesser fan?
Bigger fan. He was a sweetheart. He was one of the nicest guys. Some of the nicest people in entertainment I've ever met were him, Slash from Guns N' Roses, the guys from Def Leppard. I got to meet all of those guys. Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block. I got to hang out with him several times over the years. He is a very, very fun guy. We have 1 minute left in the show. Quinn, I saw Godzilla vs. Kong. I might have to see it again, man, because I spent $95 when it was free at home with HBO Max. Fell asleep 3 times during the movie. What did I miss?
Oh my God, how could you do this? The movie was full of action from the very beginning. From the very beginning when he's in his enclosed sanctuary, it was exciting. And then you had the early confrontation with him and Godzilla. Then you had him and Godzilla in the city. Then you had Godzilla regulating the entire planet. Then you had Mechagodzilla. How do you fall asleep? You fell asleep because your wallet had been hit. You ate a big bucket of popcorn. What happened?
He looked like Chet from Weird Science, man. Looked like a big turd on the screen. I'll watch it again on HBO Max. I'll try to check it out. Hey, thanks for listening to the Sunday Sports Grill on ESPN 1250. We've had a great time. We'll see you back here next Sunday on the Sports Grill, 1250 ESPN, 94.5 FM, and on ESPNSA.com.